Your character wakes up in a cold sweat. You're in the middle of your camp, but you can't see your traveling companions anywhere, and the fire's out. You try to sit up, but you feel a suffocating weight on your chest, and that's when you realize you can't move at all. You start to panic a little bit, and that's when, out of the darkness, your eyes affix to the fiendish-looking figure sitting atop your chest, grinning down at you. Hello, and welcome to Tuna's Tales. This time on Pondering Monsters, we'll be covering the Marra from the Grim Hollow Monster Grimoire by Ghostfire Gaming. This medium-sized creature is a fiend that appears to sleeping creatures and sits on their chest to suffocate them. If you're familiar with art history, then this little dude may seem a tad familiar to you, as it resembles the creature in the classical painting by the name of the Nightmare. I linked the Wikipedia page for that painting in the description below, which I recommend checking out. It has a section that gets into the topic of where the term nightmare comes from, and in a true full circle fashion, it appears to come from the term Marra, a Scandinavian mythological term meaning a spirit sent to torment or suffocate sleepers. In short, this painting can be thought of as an interpretation of sleep paralysis, which is essentially what this creature does. It sits on your chest, stops you from moving, and slowly does damage over time. But that's enough art history for now. Let's see just what your party is in for when you add sleep paralysis to your games. As our heroes return to town after some time traveling about the lands, they pass by some local guards who are posting a notice about a mandatory curfew for everyone in the town. Our heroes ask the guards why there's a curfew, and they inform them that in the past week or so, several people have passed away in their sleep. After convincing the guards that they'd like to help with this issue, our heroes come away with a small list of people that have either claimed to have seen something, or claimed to have survived an encounter with something in the night. The group splits up to cover more ground and agrees to meet up later to compare their notes. As they all sit around a table in their favorite tavern, they begin to notice some odd similarities from their investigations. It seems everyone they questioned all had similar experiences to each other, and that the deceased had also reported similar things just before they died. Just as the adventurers are finishing their drinks and trying to figure out what to do next, they notice the tavern keeper sheepishly approaching them. He looks nervous, but manages to say that he overheard that our heroes are looking into the mysterious deaths. He goes on to tell them that he thinks he might be next and would like their help. The group listens intently as the tavern keeper tells them that just a night or two ago, he started having the same symptoms and was hoping our heroes could help keep him safe. The group reassures the man that they aren't going to let anything happen to their favorite tavern keeper, and that they'll figure this whole thing out as quick as can be. However, they're all so focused on calming down the tavern keeper that none of them notice a mysterious figure quietly exiting the tavern.
Huh, interesting.
I think it has the potential to be for sure, but let me guess, you've got some questions about it?
I do. How do you know?
Call it a hunch. For now though, let's hear 'em.
Okay, first question. What is this good for?
When it comes to this particular encounter, I think it would work nicely as an introduction to a campaign, or as a way to bring the party together.
So, the party just gets wrapped up in this somehow?
Pretty much. You can do something like having someone hire them to investigate these odd deaths that have been happening around the town. This then becomes the event that brings the party together in the first place.
What if the party's already together?
Well, you can still have someone offer to pay them for looking into all of this, but if you want to take a slightly different approach, then you can say that an NPC they're fond of has been noticing some symptoms. Or if there's an NPC that the party needs something from, then you can say that that NPC is having these symptoms, and they can only help the party if the party manages to save them.
Wait, what are these symptoms you keep mentioning?
Fair question. If we look at the flavor text for this creature, it calls out a couple specifics that we can use. Namely that the Marra draws out personal fears and causes panic. People report feeling a heavy weight on their chest. People mention having a sudden inability to move, and the sudden appearance of moths.
Wow, that's a lot.
It kind of is, but they're all fairly simple to include. Just make sure that enough people are saying the same things about their experiences that it seems odd.
Okay, but what happens if I go with the NPC in trouble route and the party doesn't manage to save them?
If that happens, then it all kind of depends on the tone of your game. If it fits, then the Marra claims another victim.
But what if they needed that NPC?
In that case, it's up to your party whether or not they want to spend the time and resources reviving this NPC. If they want to and can, then let them. If they want to but can't, then give them a quest for it.
And if they just decide not to?
Then, if this was an NPC that they needed, maybe the NPC has a hidden area in their house that has the info the party needs. Now, they have to go on a mission to sneak into that house and get the info.
I like it, but reviving someone feels like it cheapens the threat of the Marra, doesn't it?
I think I see what you're getting at, and I'd totally agree if that's where you left it. Consider, though, that just because someone's been revived once, that doesn't mean that they're immune to the Marra visiting them again. Only, if it comes around this time, it'll make sure that it finishes the job.
But can't they just revive the NPC again?
They could, but what if on the second go-around, the Marra traps the soul so that it can't be revived? Most reviving spells state that the soul has to be free and willing, and the Marra is a fiend. Seems reasonable to say that it can trap the souls of the creatures it's killed, similar to other fiends. Then, the party has to find and defeat the Marra in order to get the soul back. You could also include that approach from the very beginning to further incentivize the party defeating this fiend.
Ooh, this way, failure doesn't lock the party out of their quest.
That's right. It just sets them back or moves the goalpost a little further away.
I'll keep that in mind. Can I ask one more question, though?
For you, Red, of course.
The only other thing I was wondering about is who that mysterious figure in the tavern was.
Good catch. Basically, I asked myself the question of why is this creature suddenly here and doing all of this? The most interesting answer to me was cultists.
Oh, what are they up to?
Well, summoning the Marra, of course.
Yeah, but why?
Honestly, for whatever reason you feel like. If it were my table, though, then I'd probably go with something like they're trying to use the Marra to extort or blackmail people, or to take out business or political rivals for their own gain. Of course, you don't have to use the cultists. You could just say that the Marra found its way here and likes how easy it is to go after the people.
So the cultists are optional?
Pretty much. I'll go into more detail a little later, but they make running this for higher level parties easier in a way. If you're just running this for a low-level party, though, then you really don't need to include them unless you want to.
They just add in a little extra challenge.
That and some balance. Plus, it can be kind of nice to have a reason why things are happening other than just because. Keep it in your back pocket and use it if you want.
Will do. Thanks for answering my questions, Tuna. Are we ready to look at putting this all together now?
Of course, Red. And yeah, let's take a deeper dive into this. When it comes to getting this encounter started and your players curious, it's all in how you introduce it to them, and there are three main ways that come to mind when I think about how best to introduce this. You can have a town crier calling out info about this, the interaction with the guards I mentioned earlier, or someone just approaches the party to ask them to look into all this. If you come up with a different way that works better for you, then go for it. Coming up with something yourself can also help make the encounter feel more like your own. For this, I'll be running with someone asks the party for help, specifically a friendly NPC that the party has grown attached to. If you don't have an NPC like that, then you can replace the attachment with gold. An amount of coin never seems to fail when it comes to motivating the party. Otherwise, this NPC can approach them and start explaining their issue. I don't know if you've heard, but people have been dying suddenly in their sleep. It doesn't seem to matter their age or their overall health either. They go to sleep and come morning, they're dead. The concerning thing to me is, I think I might be next. During this conversation, the NPC can inform the party of what's been happening, some of the symptoms they've been having during the past couple of nights, and how they feel like they'll probably be dead in the next night or two. If you're using the cultist option, then you can even have the NPC mention how they got a disturbing letter telling them to do something or pay some amount, otherwise they'd be next. From here, I'd leave it up to your party on how they want to look into this. They can report to any town guard with the intent to assist in the investigation, check out the homes of the past people that have died, or even just keep watch on their NPC throughout the night. If they check in with the guards, then they can get some direct info, types of people that have died, areas in the town where the deaths occurred, general reports from people that think they saw something, etc. I'll leave it up to you to decide if you want to make getting this info difficult. If you do want to make it difficult, then an appropriate DC would be around the 12 to 14 range for a 5th level party. If the party wants to start looking around victims' homes, you can have the NPC just list off some people that died recently, or they can direct the party to the guards and tell them to ask them for that information. However, when it comes to staying with the NPC during the night, they may just be able to witness several things. One of these may be the Marra directly, or if you're using the cultists, then maybe they can notice some cultists lingering around outside just before or after the Marra attack. This is a good way to signal that there may be someone pulling some strings from the shadows, or as a way to lead the party back to wherever the cult's dark rituals are happening. As you're keeping an eye on your friend, you all hear a small commotion outside. Looking out the windows, you see several hooded figures standing across the street, shrouded by the shadows and chanting. As you go to take a closer look, you hear your friend starting to scream in a panic. You rush back to him to see a medium-sized impish creature sitting atop his chest. This specific approach means that the cult is most likely going to be aware of your party and their meddling moving forward. This might just lead to the cultists finding ways to target the party directly to get them out of the way. If they want, they could start blackmailing someone official to put a bounty on the party, or convince someone to ban the party from useful businesses, or even the city itself. Most likely though, this will probably lead to your party fighting the Marra. If that does happen, then don't worry, as we have some things set up here to help us with this. Namely, the Marra could just run away. They're not dumb and could probably see that fighting to the death when outnumbered is maybe not the best option. For this, they have the ability to turn into a tiny moth with a 40-foot fly speed and can make their escape. If you do want it to fight to the death, then go for it. If the party defeats it, well, that's why we have the cultists. Just have them do another ritual to summon a new Marra to do their bidding, and watch as the party learns that their job isn't done just yet. Speaking of combat with this creature, it should be fairly straightforward. The Marra gets 2 attacks around with its claws, which can knock a target prone. This is useful since if someone's prone, it can replace a claw attack with its crushing presence, and can just sit on them. This will keep it stationary while it's crushing someone, but the Marra does have damage resistance to non-magic or non-silvered attacks, so that might not be the worst outcome. If it gets low on health, then you can choose to have it try escaping if you want. Otherwise, it can keep fighting. The only other bit to have prepped here is to decide if you want to use the cultists or not. If you do, then you should take some time to figure out where they're hiding, overall goals, secret members, and how your party can defeat them. Otherwise, you should be all set when it comes to running this encounter for a 5th level party. But what about a higher level party, you ask? Well, let's take a look at what we can do to scale things up. Scaling for higher powered parties can be fairly easy here. At CR5, adding more Marras can balance things in a jiffy. For a 10th level party of 5, you're looking at 2 creatures for an easy encounter, and at 15th level, 4 of them make for a medium encounter. A thing to keep in mind, unless your party has access to either magic or silvered weapons, the Marra is just going to be taking less damage. Most likely that won't be an issue at higher levels, so feel free to add in more creatures, and worst case, they can start running away if you've made things too hard. Additionally, since at 10th level, the CR difficulty swings from easy to hard between 2 or 3 of these creatures, you can also just bump their stats. More health is where I would start with that, but if you need more than that, then I'd recommend looking at changing their 2-hit bonus or giving them 1 extra claw attack. This creature feels like it's easy enough to fix on the fly if you make the combat too difficult, so I'd err on the side of caution and try to make it a little harder than you probably want. Most likely there's going to be more characters than monsters, so action economy will be in the player's favor. And now you should be on your way to using sleep paralysis against your party in your next session. I thought this monster was a cool one to use since it's got the art and mythological tie-ins, and it just goes to show that in tabletop games, you can create a monster from really any source if you're feeling inspired enough. Speaking of inspiration, if you have any monsters that you would want to see an encounter for, then feel free to let me know in the comments below. Otherwise, if you liked this encounter and want to see more of them, then a like and subscribe would really help the channel out. Of course, if you have any questions about something that I left out or that wasn't too clear, then feel free to stop on by the comments for that too. With that, thanks for letting me talk at you all, and until next time, keep pondering.